Tanks, tanks and tanks. It's finally Thanksgiving Day. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz has finally freed the Leopard. And this is a historic moment in this war, along with moments like Zelensky's speech in the Congress. We will watch the very moment that will change this war, and you and I are part of this.
Ist es rasch 2 Panzerbataillone zusammen mit unseren Verbündeten bereitzustellen? Das gibt viele Länder, die gerne mitliefern wollen, und wir werden das koordinieren und sie einbeziehen, damit das Schritt für Schritt auch möglich wird. Wir werden Ausbildung gewährleisten, Logistik, Munition und Wartung der Systeme. Und wie gesagt, den Partnerländern ermöglichen, dass sie liefern können. Meine Damen und Herren, das ist das richtige Prinzip. Es geht hier um sehr wirksame Waffensysteme. Und es ist richtig, dass wir diese Waffensysteme niemals alleine, sondern immer in enger Kooperation bereitstellen. Es gibt in diesem Land viele Bürgerinnen und Bürger, die sich Sorgen machen, auch angesichts einer solchen Entscheidung und angesichts der Dimensionen, die diese Waffe mit sich bringt. Und deshalb möchte ich diesen Bürgerinnen und Bürgern hier und an dieser Stelle sagen: Vertrauen Sie mir, vertrauen Sie der Bundesregierung. Wir werden weiter, weil wir international abgestimmt handeln, sicherstellen, dass diese Unterstützung möglich ist, ohne dass die Risiken für unser Land darüber in eine falsche Richtung wachsen. Das ist, warum wir das so tun, und so werden wir es auch weitermachen.
I am so glad to be part of this moment, and I'm so glad Germans have finally made up their mind. It's all about the government. German people, some of the people at least, have already wanted to send these Leopards. But you cannot really blame the Germans. After World War II, such a dark history for them. 2 generations, 80 years in a pacifist spirit, the West Germans at least. Grown in a spirit that you don't need weapons, you don't need war. You can fix conflict with discussion and economic means, and this has been working with Russia. Even with the Soviet Union, they sold gas to the Western Germany. But it doesn't work now, the rules have changed, and I'm glad Germany is slowly coming along. Slowly, but they are coming along, that's the main thing. But this doesn't only mean 14 German Leopard tanks that Scholz promised. Here is a list of countries that have promised Leopard 2s to Ukraine. Let's go through it. 14 German Leopards. We have Poland, 14 Polish Leopards. 53 Spanish Leopards. EU countries are filled with Leopards. It is main EU battle tank. Rheinmetall produces it, and of course they sold it everywhere, so EU countries have a ton of these tanks. 4 Portuguese Leopards, 14 British Challengers, of course, up to 8 Norwegian Leopards. And in the waiting list, possibly they will pledge these tanks in the future, there is Sweden with 14 Leopards, there is Netherlands with 14 Leopards, there is Finland with 10 Leopards, and Denmark with 6 Leopards, and then Estonia with 1,000 Leopards. Oh no, this happened in my dreams, I'm sorry, I forgot. Yeah. No Estonia, unfortunately. We don't have tanks. Did you think I'm gonna skip the Americans? There is the United States with their 31 Abrams tanks. Did you think I'm gonna gloss over it like it's nothing? No, this is another historic moment in this war, and you and I are part of it. Scholz only agreed to send Leopards if the Americans would send Abrams. Like Scholz said, this is a decision made in cooperation with the Allies.
Today, I'm announcing that the United States will be sending 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine.
Yeah.
The equivalent of 1 Ukrainian battalion. Secretary Austin has recommended this step because it will enhance the Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives. The Abrams tanks are the most capable tanks in the world. They're also extremely complex to operate and maintain.
Extremely complex to operate and maintain, this is true. Abrams tanks are gas jugglers. The Abrams engine can take anything. As much as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, they can take gasoline, diesel and jet fuel. That's how the engine is designed, to take anything. But it's a very thirsty engine. And Abrams, like Leopards, also need a ton of spare parts. So if you bring these tanks, and Challengers also, you bring them to Ukraine, you have to bring the logistical capabilities with it. Otherwise you have a tank that will break down. Guaranteed, it's war. Tanks break down. If you cannot fix it fast and efficiently, it does not give anything to you. So people are really riled up about, oh, Leopards and Abrams and Challengers, but nobody really talks about the logistics behind it. You have to actually erect factories for it to be fixed. The whole logistical convoy of spare parts, fuel, ammunition. Scholz mentioned it, and President Biden is mentioning it right now. All of this will be included, otherwise the tanks will be nothing.
Giving Ukraine the parts and equipment necessary to effectively sustain these tanks on the battlefield.
That's the main thing.
We'll begin to train the Ukrainian troops on these issues of sustainment, logistics, and maintenance as soon as possible. We're also closely coordinated this announcement with our allies. I'm grateful to Chancellor Schultz for providing German Leopard 2 tanks and will lead an effort to organize a European contribution of 2 tank battalions for Ukraine. I want to thank the Chancellor for his leadership and his steadfast commitment to our collective efforts to support Ukraine.
Hoorah!
Germany has really stepped up. The Chancellor has been a strong, strong voice for unity, a close friend, and for the level of effort we're going to continue. Putin expected Europe and the United States to weaken our resolve. He expected our support for Ukraine to crumble with time. He was wrong. He was wrong. And he was wrong from the beginning, and he continues to be wrong. We are united. America's united, and so is the world. And we approach the one-year mark, as we do, of the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine. We remain united and determined as ever in our conviction and our cause.
I gotta agree with what President Biden says here. Putin was wrong to assume that the West will fall to infighting. It is not the case. The West is united. It has taken longer than I would have wanted it to. As an Estonian, I think Germany and USA could have sent these tanks sooner, but better late than never. And Germany, if you look at money-wise what Germany has contributed, we're all hating on Germany, but actually they have contributed 2.5 billion USD. And I know Americans go crazy, oh, it's nothing compared to USA. I know. USA is number one and it will be. But Germany has given a lot. They're just very reluctant to give weapons. But they're changing and we gotta appreciate what we have. Thank you, Germany. And thank you, America. European freedom depends on you. My friends, we have a sponsor today. I'm very happy about it. Let's go. Filling out that shirt quite nicely, Artur. Artur been in the gym, about to Incredible Hulk out of that shirt. Hey Artur, your shirt doesn't fit. You need to go up a size or 2. I'm glad you guys have noticed. I've been working out a lot in the gym and I've put on some muscle. But you can't put on muscle if you don't consume protein. Where do I get my protein? Magic Spoon. It's cereal, reinvented. In each serving of Magic Spoon cereal, there is 0 grams of sugar, 30 to 40 grams of protein, and only 4 to 5 net grams of carbs. Magic Spoon cereal bars have 1 gram of sugar, 10 grams of protein, 4 net grams of carbs, and only 130 calories per bar. They're also keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free. I wish they were free, I mean, they're so good. My favorite taste of Magic Spoon is fruity, but I don't have it here because as soon as it arrived, I opened it up and ate it all. Start your new year off right with Magic Spoon. Click the link below and use the code Estonian69 for $5 off your very own variety box. And choose from Magic Spoon's best-selling flavors like cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cookies and cream, and maple waffle, plus other awesome flavors, including blueberry muffin and cinnamon roll. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use the code Estonian69. Or go to magicspoon.com/Estonian69 for $5 off your order today. Also for Canadian and British fans, Magic Spoon now also ships to Canada and the UK. This Leopard 2 convoy was spotted in, drumroll, Finland. Suomi perkele! The official Finnish info is of course that these tanks are headed to a training exercise, but of course they're gonna say this. They're not going to say, yes, this very specific convoy is headed to Ukraine. You don't say it, you do it. The Leopards are moving. Today another Leopard convoy was spotted, and this time in, drumroll, Germany. Leopards are moving in the EU. If I was a smart Russian, and I say a smart Russian, I would know enough to be afraid. Zelensky was doing an interview at the very moment he was told that Leopards are freed. And we actually have his reaction. Let's watch it.
Leopard 2 tanks are coming from Europe. You must be relieved.
Not yet. He doesn't really know yet. It just happened. The information hasn't gotten to him. Check this out.
Щойно. Шольц? Тільки що? Ну, у мене з Шольцем буде розмова. Ось зараз прес-секретар сказав, що щойно Шольц, канцлер Шольц, підтвердив, що дасть Леопарди. У мене зустріч одразу з ним розмова по телефону одразу після нашого.
So supposedly Zelensky was supposed to call Scholz immediately after this interview, but the information got ahead. I think in this call Scholz wanted to let Zelensky know that, you know, he's freed the Leopard, but the information got ahead of the situation, and we have this reaction. Zelensky doesn't really show much. I mean, he's a president. He cannot really... I'm the one who can show emotion. I'm a military blogger, but Zelensky, he remains very professional about it, but I'm sure he's very happy about it.
Інтерв'ю. Я дуже радий. Хочу подякувати Німеччині. Я дякую Британії і дякую Сполученим Штатам Америки за те, що вони прийняли такі рішення. Але я вдячний в цілому світу за підтримку України. Але якщо ми говоримо відкрито з вами і чесно, то кількість танків і термін, коли вони можуть до нас доїхати, мають невід'ємну
The delivery time is critical. This is indeed a very important thing because the crews need to be trained, the logistics need to be set up, which takes a lot of time. Not just any logistics, effective, efficient logistics. We don't want the Russian logistics, right? Most part of the battlefield, the ground is soft, so I think even if these tanks would be sent to Ukraine in the next month, they would be used in April or May, because that's the time when the ground is guaranteed to be solid. You don't want German Leopards in mud. I am sorry to tell, but I think T-72s are better in mud than German Leopards. Correct me if I'm wrong, feel free to comment, I'll read. German military tech and German cars, German tech in general is known to be very over-engineered, so if I would say, keep those Leopards away from mud and sand as long as possible, and they'll fight better. April and May, that's my call when we'll see them on the battlefield. I know what you guys want. I know you guys want to see the Russian reaction to the Western main battle tanks being sent to Ukraine. Do you have too many brain cells? Do you hate thinking on your own? I got a solution for you. Behold, the Russian propaganda show, the Solovyov show. Oh God. Solovyov says Berlin must be destroyed because they send tanks, and the other dude makes an argument. There are righteous men in this city. You cannot destroy this city. What the hell kind of an argument is that? There are civilians in this city. What the hell, Russians? Oh my God. Oh my God. Iskander is Lord now. Oh my God. Oh, this was 30 seconds and I'm losing brain cells. I feel my brain shrinking and my ability to think for myself going poof out of the window. Did you feel the same? Oh, I don't want to watch long clips of Russian propaganda because it really has an effect on you. It's really taking away your ability to be human. But bear with me, we have one more. There's many propaganda shows in Russia. This was the Solovyov show. Now we have Skabeyeva, a Russian propaganda woman. I don't know if she's bored or stupid, but apparently she finds a connection between the number of tanks sent to Ukraine and Nazism. You're gonna see it. It's wild.
Кроме того, в среднесрочной перспективе могут быть подготовлены к использованию и другие боевые немецкие машины из промышленных запасов. В том числе эти самые
88 Leopards,
штук
14 British Challengers,
Не
right.
забываем про 14 британских Challenger'ов. Безумие или случайное указание.
Madness or the occasional reference to the Nazi salute 1488. He draws the conclusion that the West, all the countries combined, Germany sends 14, but all the other countries send like 14, 14, 10, and it's 88 tanks, right? It's a sheer coincidence. You gotta be insane to draw this conclusion, but she thinks it's a thought through Nazi salute reference of 88. That all of the Western countries came together and decided, how many tanks are you gonna give? Oh, I'm gonna give 14. Oh, how many does Finland have to give for us to get 88? 10. I gotta salute their creativeness on this. But oh my God, please stop, Russian propaganda show, please stop. A recent announcement from the Ministry of Defense of the UK says that Russia is preparing a small number of T-14 Armata tanks to be deployed to Ukraine. In the report, it states that these tanks are riddled with technical problems and the Russian army didn't actually want to accept these tanks due to their issues. A T-72 is a workhorse. It works. If you have the spare parts, of course. A T-14 is like a new sports car. Every time you drive it, you gotta change some parts in it, and they don't have the parts, and they're very high-tech. So, of course, the army doesn't want them. They will be caskets on tracks. The whole Russian state has been able to produce about 20 T-14s, most of which have been prototypes, and the ones that are not working, because the testing phase is still not over. Supposedly it is, but they break down all the time. On paper, it's a great tank. In practicality, I would choose a T-72. The important thing to keep in mind about tanks that they are just a piece of metal if they're used alone. They're quite easy to destroy if you don't have artillery support, logistics or air support behind them. You can destroy a T-72 with one Carl Gustaf. A hit in the tracks and it's not going to move, and a static tank is just a sitting duck for how many shots of RPG you want to shoot at it. Tanks are just one part in offensive operations. You also need infantry to cover the tanks, and you need air force to cover the tanks, and definitely artillery. After the tanks, Ukraine will now push for the Western countries to send F-16, and this is behind USA. If Leopard was behind Germany, F-16 is straight behind USA, and USA has no plans as of now to free the F-16, although Ukrainian pilots have already started the training with the F-16, because in my eyes also it is only a matter of time when USA will free the F-16, and by that time the pilots are ready immediately. A Russian mobile field command post of the brigade commander has been destroyed by a Ukrainian strike. It was near the village of Chornozemne, Zaporozhye Oblast. This is all that was left by the morning, and here is the exact location. These strikes are death by 1,000 cuts. Alone, this one strike doesn't do much. Each commander knocked out cold will further decrease the effectiveness of the already ineffective Russian command structure. This is the overview of the Russian losses added on 23rd of January. But note how most of the equipment is destroyed compared to September, October, November and December, where most of the equipment was captured. These numbers are huge though. Russia has renewed their armored assaults, and it echoes immediately in their losses. Now let's look at Russian losses today, 26th of January. Troop loss is above 7-day average. 780 knocked out cold, an insanely high number. 1 battalion tactical group a day. That's the average within the last week. 7-day troop average losses for Russia, 761. Equipment losses today was 78, an insanely high number. And 7-day average equipment losses per day is 41, also extremely high. Let's talk about the genius of Vladimir Putin. He has managed to do something that the Western powers even didn't want to do. Germany was fully dependent on Russian oil and gas. It was a bad situation, but even they didn't want to change this. Putin has managed to cut the Western dependency on Russian oil and gas. Let's sum up Putin's strategic genius. Expanded and united NATO. Repositioning of the NATO military assets to the east, to the Russian border. Lost more Russian soldiers than the entire decade of USSR in Afghanistan. Decoupled, disconnected Russian economy from the world. Increased military spending of individual NATO countries, isolated from former allies. All these things can be contributed personally to Putin. Because of his policies, these things have happened. Putin has achieved all of the opposite that he wanted to achieve. Now, my friends, I have a very interesting video for you that gives us an outline of how artillery crews work together with the drone crews. We can see Ukrainian artillery and drone crews destroying Russian equipment in Luhansk region. Luhansk Oblast, right? See, this is a civilian tablet. It's not a military-grade tablet. Russian army banned these. And there's logic behind it, of course, that you don't want artillery missions to be ordered on mobile hotspots. But these are incredibly effective and cheap. So they threw the baby out with the bathwater. Ukrainians are fortunately not doing this. A DJI drone.
Так, це наша пташка. Плюс.
Є фронт, вони працюємо ми. Ніяких наступальних дій наразі не ведеться, тому що не відповідає погодні умови. Погодні умови – це ґрунт, важка техніка.
Yeah, look at this mud. You cannot do any offensive operations because there's mud everywhere. Of course, you can use the roads, but if you only use roads to attack, you will be like Russians forming that huge convoy to take Kiev. It was an easy target and it had huge logistical issues. Offensive operations require this mud to be gone, this mud to be solid dirt that can be driven over.
Грузне, Для дронів теж зараз не дуже добрі, сприятливі погодні умови, тому що або дощ, або туман. От, виходить, є пару днів таких, що можна політати, розвідуємо їхні позиції, потім по їхніх позиціях відпрацьовуємо.
Баба. Баба.
Попередні координати передали по БМП, але зараз дорозвідуємо, подивимось, що там ще є. Ну, чітко Б. Павук Джексон на зв'язок. Передай на Браво, що ціль так і стоїть, по ній не працюють.
It's all about the drones. They don't have to be military grade at all.
Спільно з підрозділом аеророзвідки від 66-ї бригади здійснюємо розвідку в районі скупчення особового складу Збройних сил Російської Федерації. Виявляємо цілі, передаємо координати і по можливості коригуємо роботу нашої арти. Або своїми силами, пушкою АТ-15 рапіра. Якщо є щось серйозне, жирне, то підключається арта більш серйозна, дальнобойна. Ну і таким чином працюємо. Пташка у нас в повітрі висить десь до 40 хвилин, в залежності.
So if it is one BMP, the Russian artillery doctrine says that you cover the area with artillery shells because they don't have precision artillery. Soviet-made artillery are area weapons, but new artillery doctrines, NATO doctrines, they're not area weapons. They are precision one-shell weapons. You see one BMP, you shoot 1 to 3 shells. Whereas the Soviet doctrine would shoot about 30 shells to take out that BMP, and it's still not guaranteed. Of course, shooting that 1 to 3 shells, it's much more expensive because these shells are guided and they don't miss, but you're sure that they don't miss. At the beginning of war, we were all surprised to see how Ukrainian artillery one-shots Russian armor. Because even I thought of artillery as an area weapon, but actually Western artillery is precise enough to be used as artillery snipers.
Від того, скільки вона пролетіла. Чим далі летить, тим менше вона може висіти в повітрі. Якщо працює арта, треба коригувати. Картинка в нас йде безперервно, пташки міняються в повітрі. Тобто одна пташка, вже акумулятор сідає, їй пора вертатися, друга пташка в цей час стає на місце першої і таким чином здійснюємо заміну. Тобто картинка місцевості для артилерії в нас не переривається ні на хвилину. Ну, якщо що там... Хтось буде бачити з близьких, дружина, мама, я в шапці, в дітей, нагодований, чайку зранку попив, в мене все добре.
Glad to hear, man. Glad to hear.
О, як я люблю. Да. Дякую. Якийсь він з фруктовими нотами. Ну, зараз відчуєш. Якийсь там драгонфрут, щось таке. Файне.
Зараз на даний момент спостерігаю, як ліквідується ціль ворожа. Спочатку провели аеророзвідку.
I have a DJI drone, the very same they're using actually, and if you have had it, you know that you can hear it and see it if it's about 50 meters from you, but it can fly about 400 meters high and the distance is a few kilometers, right, if you have good connection. You don't see these birds. They're small. If they're not carrying explosive also, they're incredibly small, and if they're right next to you, they make huge noise, buzzing sound, but if they're quite high above, so they can see everything, but you don't see them, you don't hear them. You cannot shoot them down also, they're such a small speck on the sky, you don't really notice them at all. To notice a drone is a lucky shot. If it's too close to you, then you can behave and shoot it down or try to use a drone gun if you have one. But usually these drones are quite invisible.
Виявили ціль. Ну, зараз коректуємо. Було знищення ворожого БМП. Вон ходить за забором, бачите? Також знищували їхні СПшки з особовим складом. Робиш свою роботу? Так. Фанат своєї роботи.
I love the answer.
Наблюдаем. Хотя. Есть. Вот есть. Сюда надо, вот сюда надо. Чуть-чуть. Уже близко. Да не веди ты за ним, блин. Это они от блиндажа от того, блядь, бегут. И вот теперь надо по этой переносить огонь.
So we usually see, in the summer I used to make these compilations of destroying Russian armor and drone kills and everything, but now we see behind the scenes there's an entire crew. There's drone crews, there's artillery crews, then there's command centers, command points, where these men are behind laptops and they're coordinating all of this. It's an incredibly efficient and fast communications. I'm talking about this and showing this video. It's quite a long video to give credit to this and open up this procedure of how these videos are made, because we only see the outcome. Destroyed. Poof, one poof, 5 seconds. But what goes into it? It is incredibly important we understand it, so we understand that we need to give more drones to them. Don't they have enough? No, they don't.
Там лежбище.
Этот окоп становится бесполезным, если, развалить, понимаешь? Они уйдут.
They do swear a lot. Slavic languages are very, very swearable. They have a lot of swear words.
Да. Они зимой в одном окопе не проживут.
I was one link of these artillery missions. As a company communications, any of our platoons destroyed something, some enemy armor, it came through me. I had to write it down. I'm running around with the company leader at the same time. I'm listening to my radio, writing down the losses, summing them up, giving it to company leader, and he says to me, send it up. I send it to the battalion, they send it to brigade, and they send it to where we see Russian losses every day changing. It comes from platoon to squad level. They report it up and somebody has to count it all. And it's a lot of work. It's fully multitasking if you're in infantry communications. So here we see the chill kind of work, but actually for me it was always running around, doing the same thing, but running around with a weapon at the same time and doing it while I'm running. Infantry is different, of course.
Крестик наведи на. О, уже получше.
Speaking like we're watching football. Goal!
Ну щось вони питаються, якісь або щось у них там непонятне, я не знаю.
Мы все видели, сейчас второй снаряд и потом переносим.
Просто.
Треба крышу им разбить, думаю, треба в крышу упасть. В крышу.
If they're firing precision-guided, GPS-guided rounds, each round is incredibly expensive, so they're gonna waste it. And Ukrainian army is lacking artillery munitions, we know this. So if they shoot, it is thought through, they gotta make every shot count. It's not like the Russians just bang the whole area, if something moves, bang the whole area again. The NATO Western artillery doctrine is very much different.
А в ту дырку можете? Ой, дырищу в стене пробуравили.
Сейчас постараемся.
Хорошо. Прямо в двері постукали туди.
Все, крыша гоплет.
This is incredibly precise. We're so used to this, but this is unbelievably precise artillery. Now we see the mortar team, right? We saw the drone crews, we saw the command point. This is probably a self-propelled howitzer. I think so. I want to show these videos. They are longer. They make these videos drag out, but we gotta give credit to the whole process. Otherwise, we see the drone crews only. There's also artillery, there's command points. There is very precise and efficient communication between them, and I was a part of this. I was a link in this process, so I want to give credit to all of it. For us civilians actually to acknowledge what's going on. We have a perfect video, a reconstruction of the Kursk tank battle. 1943. It was performed in the university gym in Russia, Samara region. This whole spectacle cost 30,000 euros. And this came from the presidential grant. Samara region is not known for their high quality roads or hospitals or toilets or refrigerators. It is known for the opposites, the lack of these things, and 30,000 USD is spent on this nonsense. This shows us how the money flows in Russia. With this attitude, they will never get new roads, they will never get better hospitals. They will never get plumbing or toilets in the house, outside of St. Petersburg and Moscow, of course. This is what they choose to spend money on. My friends, I now want to thank you 5 new Patreons, the biggest Patreons who have supported this channel and make this channel possible. I will butcher the names. Steven Sekrest, No Kapes, Silver Salm, oh that's an Estonian name. I think we have had like 3 to 4 Estonians throughout my 5 Patreon years in this channel. Scott Hamilton, Jak Sullivan. Thank you to these 5 people. If you like what I do and you want to support the process, Patreon is the fastest way to do it. Links in the description below. Tier 10 or above and I might be butchering your name. Thank you for watching, my friends. If you like it, subscribe. And until my next video, Slava Ukraini!